What's up, everyone? Towelie here with Unstable Commanders, bringing you a discussion video. This time, we're going to be introducing our new co-host, Derfull. Welcome, Derfull.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Towelie.
All right, and now, Derfull, just to get to know you a little bit, what is your favorite color combination?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna have to say, is it red and blue?
So he will be the new co-host moving forward. If you want to follow him on Twitter X, he does have a Twitter X account at Derfull Gaming, which I'll go and put the link on the description box below. And he does run a Discord, a Joyra Discord that I actually joined, and that's how I met him. And he actually upgraded my deck and everything like that.
I mod on the Is It Discord and the Joyra Discord, and I have my own separate from all that.
Yep.
So.
All right, well, let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about Duskmourn Spoilers, and which cards we think will go well in cEDH. We're first going to be starting with a commander that we're going to be building around, and then 3 cards that we're going to add to our decks. So starting with Derfull, what's the commander that you want to build around cEDH on the new set?
So of course, after professing my love for artifacts, what else could I build but Marvin Murderous Mimic? So Marvin Murderous Mimic clocks in 2 generic mana, legendary artifact creature toy. He has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. So just off the cuff, the very first thing that comes to my mind, and I'm sure it comes to everybody else's, is going to be Palladium Mirror and Pilipala. Because you get the activated ability of Palladium Mirror to tap for 2, and then Pilipala is pay 2 and untap that creature to generate 1 mana of any color. So that right there is infinite mana. You can then pair that with any sort of infinite mana outlet like Walking Ballista, and you're off to the races. But of course, being colorless, it makes building the deck challenging, which is another aspect that I like.
Oh yeah, like I remember, so the very first episode I did with the deck text was Liberator. And I just had a lot of fun building it. So even though it is colorless and it lacks interaction, like the interaction sucks with colorless. I only had like maybe one really good instant that was able to interact and let me win the game. For those who haven't watched it, go on to watch it. It's actually an episode that came out like about a month or 2 ago. But anyways, it's a lot of fun. And I feel like even if you want to add the card into the 99, it goes well with Najeela. I feel like Najeela and Sisay, it's going to go well with, because it's literally going to be giving Mana Dorks Pseudo Haste. So you can just do your thing. That's what I love about that card.
Yep. Bloom Tender, Vabro Elder, Gigantha all come to mind.
Yep. All right. So what I want to build is Valgavoth, Heror of Souls. Flying Ward, pay 2 life, which honestly it's not that bad. Doesn't make Ward broken on this one. Whenever an opponent loses life for the first time during each of their turns, put a +1/+1 counter on Valgavoth and draw a card. So I really want to build around this to where I don't want to just deal the pain. Like everyone's just gonna feel the wrath of Valgavoth, and how I'm kind of wanting to do it. So to me, it kind of seems like he's more great when it comes to high-powered casual than cEDH, but I still want to try to build around him. So, like, I was thinking maybe adding the new card from the same set called Razorkin Needlehead, which whenever an opponent draws a card, it doesn't matter when they draw the card, too. Like, It could be their draw phase. They draw the card, it deals 1 damage to them. So, from there, it triggers Valgavoth and I get to draw, which I'm only able to do it 1 time per turn. So that's the thing about him. I can even add Mogi into it, which Mogus is actually going to be reprinted in Valgavoth.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah,
it's very reminiscent to me of a group hug, but instead of hugging, a person, you're hugging a spiked ball, and it hurts every time you do it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I'll be adding Shieldred 2.0, this Shieldred the Apocalypse. Of course, I'll be adding the Dualcaster line, so I'll be adding in like Hoarding Brute Lord, Saw in Half, like just to get all those combo pieces in. And instead of doing like an ad nos line for this deck, I'm actually thinking about adding in a War Gorger line to get infinite mana to just end the game with Torment of Hellfire. That'll pretty much be like my end game right there. So hopefully it does well. There will be ways for me to try to get this win. I mean, Entomb will definitely help out with the Hoarding Broodlord, or even with the War Gorger Dragon. If I have the Animate dead in my hand, like I can immediately just put infinite mana right then and there, which will be super freaking awesome. But yeah, looking forward to it. So starting with the first card that you want to add to your decks, go ahead and go for it.
So for my next card, I think that this one's going to kind of be a hidden gem, and I definitely want to see it in the likes of Nadu and some other decks that I'm looking at. It's going to be called Cathartic Parting. And for 1 generic, 1 green mana, it is a sorcery. The owner of target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls shuffles it into their library. I want to touch on that for a quick second, because it doesn't matter if they're the original owner or if somebody gave it to them. So that's key. That's something I want you guys to bear in mind, why I'm paying attention to this so much. You, the player, may then shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. So this is a very similar effect that we've seen before on a blue card, Memory's Journey, with Flashback. But it's a lot more difficult to loop that one. And this one, it's just nice to see the additional effect on another dedicated green card, because Memory's Journey is blue, but its Flashback cost involves green. So it's a little bit more limited in the decks that it can go in. So it's just nice to see it on a straight mono green card. It's nice to see this type of effect because it can help you recover or get out of a sticky spot if you've lost something in the process, or somebody's, blown out. Like in Nadu, the reason why I would want it is somebody blows out my Shuko or somebody blows out my Lightning Greaves. So,
yeah.
And
then what I'm wanting to add, which I'm actually looking into more adding, is when I think about it, I don't really run a lot of decks that runs black, except for Atraxa, which I actually plan on, kind of breaking apart anyways. One of the cards I actually want to add in future decks is Nowhere to Run. It's a colorless black enchantment that's flash. And when it enters the battlefield, target creature opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn. And creatures or opponents control can be targets of spells and abilities as though they didn't have hexproof, and ward abilities of those creatures don't trigger. This actually would go well with a lot of decks. I want to say all decks that runs black. Like, I don't see people running this in Rockside, but I could maybe see... Probably not even Blue Farm either, because they're just like saying like, nah, I'm gonna win myself. So this could potentially be one of those cards that you probably want to slot in just to get another like way to destroy creatures in a way. Giving it -3/-3, so you could go loop around the whole like indestructibility. And then you could deal with hexproof and ward on those pesky creatures. Because I don't know about you, but I've been seeing more Roaming Throne lately. And Roaming Throne is annoying just because of the ward. So
I was gonna say, what comes to mind for me is Roaming Throne, just like what you said, Tivit. Dealing with Tivit, getting Tivit off the board. Dealing with hexproof, like you said. I just said it. Nadu, Lightning Greaves, being able to deal with that.
It would actually not deal with the Lightning Greaves one, because this one does not take away haste. It specifically says that its abilities, though it didn't have hexproof, so, or not haste, sorry, shroud. So this actually will not stop anything that has shroud. It will only stop it if it specifically says hexproof or ward. So that's kind of
I was thinking of Swiftfoot Boots.
Swifties, but you don't really play that or not. You don't want to pay 1. So I mean, it kind of would go well. I mean, I could definitely see this running, because I mean, with -3/-3, a lot of creatures that are annoying in CEDH have a toughness of 3. Nadu being a 3/4, I mean, the likelihood, I don't think anyone would even dare to swing with Nadu. If they're ballsy and it gets blocked, then sure, and then next Nowhere to Run for the rest. which that just means that you're just a really dumb Nadu player, in my opinion. So I don't see dealing with Nadus in particular, but I mean Tymna, for example, Tymna needs to, or creatures with Tymna needs to swing in order to trigger Tymna. So imagine going against a Tymna, you have nowhere to run in your hand, and they try to swing with Tymna or swing with anyone else. You could just go, nah, I'm gonna flash in nowhere to run, and now none of your stuff can have hexproof or ward. Well, technically,
it also reminds me a little bit of Dismember.
Yeah, Dismember, yep. I think Dismember was it a -5? I think it was -5 and -5, yeah. With the Phyrexian mana. Yeah. It is Sudden Death, that's one that's -4, -4 that I see people running in just mono black decks. I don't see them running anywhere else. But it does that split second. So that's what's really nice about that card right there. So it's a 3 cost, which is like, I don't like your creature. And guess what? You can't do anything about it. Split second, boom, dead.
So for my second card, it's more so I'm just happy to see more of this style of effect. Only white deck I run currently is Dihada, and Dihada just wants to go fast. So, but the card I'm looking at is Exercise. So again, 1 generic, 1 white, sorcery, exile target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. It's that power 4 or greater that I feel like is, we probably could have just exiled a creature and been fine. Or you could have tied it to toughness rather than power. I feel like that might have done it a little bit better. I'm more so just happy to see this kind of effect on additional cards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is it is a sorcery. So removal at sorcery speed is always something that CEDH is going to be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Which I get. But it is just nice to see the design space that is coming with this card.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of it.
And I mean, even if it doesn't work out with CEDH, it's a good casual staple. And heck, if you want to go outside of Commander, it's a pretty good standard staple, or even draft. Like I'll run it in my draft decks if I pull it, of course. If there's nothing else. So my next card that I wanted to go over is Kaido, Bane of Nightmares. A lot of people I see on Twitter X looking forward to this one. It has ninjutsu, colorless, blue, black. During your turns, as long as Kaido has 1 or more loyalty counters on him, which he comes with 4, he's a 3/4 ninja creature and has hexproof. And in the +1, you get an emblem with ninjas you control gets +1/+1. The 0 surveil 2, then draw a card for each opponent who lost life this turn, which goes great with Yuriko. Because if you top deck even a freaking brainstorm, you're drawing 3. No matter what with that 0.
Right.
And then the -2, tap target creature, put 2 stun counters on it, which that's actually really cool. Stun counters are annoying. Like, it could get really annoying. And I mean, this could actually shut down a lot of like mana dorks. Like it will shut down Delighted Halflings, that's for sure. It could shut down Bloom Tender for like people who run Atali and Agila, Sisei, or anything like that. Just anything that requires the creature to be tapped. It's really gonna put like a nuisance to those players, which I am looking forward to. This card is the reason why I'm about to build Yuriko too.
Oh yeah, I could see that. And the fact that they added new ninjutsu, the last time we saw them do anything like this on a planeswalker was with Gideon. If anybody can remember that. And I think they tried to do it with one of the Sarkans at one point. But it's not something we see super often happen with a planeswalker. For my last card, I'm actually gonna kinda go a little bit against the grain. So I've seen some cards. I like a lot of cards. Now I want to talk about one that I think is going to be a bit of a trap for people. It's probably going to be great in standard, but that's going to be about it. And as soon as it rotates out or something better comes along, you're probably going to want to get rid of this. Enter the Enigma. So for 1 blue, the sorcery, target creature can't be blocked this turn, and you get to draw a card. Again, sorcery speed. Please don't ask me why I picked on all sorceries, but that's just what happened. Yeah, but you can draw a card for 1 blue. So someone might see this and their first thought is going to be Krark and Sakashima. But I still feel like it's a trap. Being a sorcery, and anybody who has played Krark and Sakashima for a long enough time, the blue card draw is tough because we have things like Bergie, and we have Jessica's Will, and you have the ability to make a lot of red mana very easily. Making blue mana is a lot more difficult. Usually it involves generating a lot of treasure. And something that, Towelie and I have talked about at length is like floors and ceilings. What's the basic absolute lowest that this can do, and what's the highest that this can do? So that's why I think it's interesting to have these discussions, is to kind of get a feel for that. This one, sadly, the ceiling isn't high enough, I feel, to clear it and make it worth examining for Krark and Sakashima. Somebody out there might disagree with me, and I respect that. Just something I think you want to be aware of.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, hell, we've seen cards in CEDH that you wouldn't think it works with CEDH, but end up working. Like
it ends up doing amazing things.
Oh yeah, so you never know. You never know. But my last one that I want to go over are actually the new land cycles, the Verge cycles that just came out. Blazemire Verge, Flood Farm Verge, Gloom Lake Verge, Hushwood Verge, Thornspire Verge. 5 lands. And the reason why I think this will go great with CEDH, it would actually replace everyone's filter lands, is 1, it comes in untapped, and 2, it could fix mana. It's like one of the better mana fixing lands that came out in previous sets. So let's look at like Blazemire Verge, for example. Normally it taps for black, but if you have a swamp or a mountain, it could tap for red. And what I like about this, it doesn't specify that it has to be a basic swamp or mountain. Neither does the other versions. It doesn't specify basic land. It just says swamp or mountain. So you could have a Blood Crypt, you could have a bayou for like one of the other ones, you could have like whatever you want that specifically says it's an island or whatever, and you'll be able to use the second one, which I thought it was super freaking cool. I cannot replace it in Jorah, but I plan on like maybe replacing some of the filter lines I planned on adding to like future decks for future deck tech videos that if I decide to do them in later on, or like the future gameplays where I use Fall Mox Fuel instead of using filter lands, I plan on using these lands.
Right, and you raise a very good point, then, especially if you guys think about it from a deck building perspective. I mean, unless something else comes out and has the basic land types on it, we have the Surveil lands. Let's not forget those. Mm-hmm. They do come in tapped, but they do have the basic land types. Standard shock lands, and then dual lands. Aside from that, you're dealing with basics. So, yeah, your pool is limited, but that's why we have the dual lands. It's why we run shock lands. It's why, in some cases, depending on what your needs are, you run the Surveil land, so that you can hit both of those marks very easily. And then, like you said, where applicable, you're going to get the other color that you require.
Yep.
So I think for me, I do want to run them, but I might lean into it a little bit more when it comes to the color that I'm looking for more specifically. You mentioned the black and red one. So if I'm running a deck that's very heavy on black, but I know I'm going to have some red support somewhere, then yeah, absolutely. Or if I know it's black and I'm just going to need that little hint of red, that's when I might want to inject those lands. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you also run like the... what is those Zendikar lands? The flip lands, pathway lands. If you also run those pathways too, like honestly, those could be good replacements for the pathway lands too. Because pathway lands, I've always been a fan of them, but I don't like that it's just like it's basically just one side or the other. So it kind of helps with mana fixing depending on what side. So if I'm like leaning more blue than red with Jorah, and I need the red for like a Jessica's Will, then yeah, I will turn the pathway land to the red side and put it on the battlefield, but that'll be it. Like at that point, if I need an additional blue for what I was trying to do, I'm kind of screwed. This one right here, if they make an Is It one in the future, it will be awesome. I'm kind of bummed that they didn't, but, you know, it is what it is. With Towelie players, of course, they have the Thornspire Verge. I mean, like I said, I plan on building Yuriko's, so I'll have the Gloom Lake Verge. So it all sounds like, between the two of us, I think we could agree with this. This will only work if you have a deck that only runs 2 colors. I don't see this working at all if it's 3 or more.
Well, let's double click and examine that a little bit, right? Because if you're looking at this in terms of 2 colors versus 3 or 4, I agree. I do agree. I think it's going to do better in 2 color decks. Now, let me kind of expound on why. By the time you factor in, 3, 4, 5 color mana bases, you're dealing with 3 or more dual lands, shock lands. After you get past 3, you're pretty much dealing with all of the available fetches, so that could be 10 or 11, depending on, where you rank Prismatic Vista and if you feel like running basics or not.
Yeah.
And then by the time you flesh all that out, I mean, you already have most of a 20 plus card mana base right there. So then this definitely takes a back seat. Because then you're also going to be looking at things like mana confluence, gemstone caverns, exotic orchard, forbidden orchard, any of your specialty land, city of brass. So, by the time you flesh out a mana base for 3, 4, 5 color decks, yeah, you're definitely not going to need something like this.
No.
The reason why 2 color decks are always, and they've always been in such an interesting spot to me, just from a general perspective, is that color fixing in them can go really good or really bad. And like you said, it's nice to have those additional options, sure. Joyra, we're just going to pick on that because it's a great example. Despite the fact that it's red and blue, Joyra is a very blue-hungry deck. If we don't have good ways to produce blue, it's gonna have a tough time.
Yeah.
So, of course, the mana base in the Turbo list by Wash favors blue mana. But, back to what I said, something I said earlier about Kark and Sagashima, it's a lot easier to generate red mana. That's why we rely so heavily on our blue choices for mana in the deck. And that's a problem that I feel all 2 color decks have, not just Joyra.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean Joyra, yeah, because you still have like Urza that could make you those blue lands if you really wanted to. Like I know I add Urza in my Joyra, but yeah, red is it's like you said, red is more hard to get with Joyra. Blue is more hard to get with Krakshima. And you could even get that example, like, I would even say, like, maybe Nadu, because I know what people, like, when I built Nadu, the mana base was more blue than green. I don't know about you. I know there are some green staples that you play in the deck, such as, like, Scoot Swarm or, like, Finale Devastation, but the land base is more blue than green. It's how I built it. And I'm assuming with Yuriko, it's going to be more blue than black.
Right.
That's what I'll be guessing, because, I mean, you don't run, like, the typical black staple, like, Adnaz and Yuriko. Like, people don't do that. It's more blue to get all those rogues out and everything like that.
Right. So, again, that's just back to, even though it's a 2 or dual or, bi-color deck, however you wish to phrase it, like, you're still always going to favor one color. And that's something that when you're working on a mana base, it's just tough. So having additional options to allow you that filtering capability is going to be really helpful, I feel.
Oh yeah. But yeah, what do you guys think? What is the one card that you would be looking forward to in CEDH or even in casual? Just bring on the casuals too. Show some love. And if you do like the video, hit that subscribe button. Like it if you want. Like I said, comment down below. Links to our Discord, both our Twitters and everything like that will be in the description box below. If you do want to join future gameplays, we do record every Monday, 8:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every other Saturday, 8:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Discord will be Unstable Commanders. So, yeah, come join us. And if it's your birthday, happy birthday. See ya.
Happy birthday. Shout outs.